If you're struggling with lead quality, this video is for you. So if you sell anything expensive online and you're running ads for your offer, but all the leads and all the book calls of the people that come through your ads or your funnels are just not qualified, meaning they don't have money, this video may help you. There are dozens of ways to improve lead quality. Today, we're going to cover 5 that you can implement today to help improve your chances of getting the right people through your funnel. So let's go through on the iPad so I can help visualize for you guys how to improve lead quality. So number 1 is going to be understanding ICP callouts. So ICP callouts. So what are ICP callouts? So it's basically who you're talking to in your video ad or your image ad, who you're talking to in your funnel, you're talking to in your ads in general. I'll break it down into simplistic terms. Let's say you want to talk to business owners, right? So that ICP are biz owners, right? But as you know, if you just target business owners, that's still very, very broad. That will not convert on your ad. If you're targeting if this is a huge ICP that you're targeting, it's not going to work unless your spend is $50,000 or even like $10,000 to $50,000 per day on ads, which is a lot of money. If you're spending below that, let's say you're spending less than $1,000 a day, you want to be hyper specific. So the algorithm, like the meta algorithm, can allocate your ads more effectively because you're competing against people who are spending $50,000 a day. So instead of going broad, like business owners, even though it's fairly niche down, you have to go a bit much more specific. So let me give you the psychology between ICP callouts. So for some people, they say 25K per month biz owners, right? So that's an ICP callout that they use. So now we have to understand ICP callouts. When you use a revenue callout, it's going to help improve lead quality. But you have to understand when to use a revenue callout and how that impacts the quality of the people coming through. For revenue callouts, how it works is, let's say that threshold is $25,000 per month, like their MRR, 25K per month business owners. How ICP callouts work is it's going to target people that are at 25K here and below. That's how it works. And majority of the people that are actually coming through the funnel when you analyze your data are going to be between the middle and also the top end, right? So that can be between 15K to even 20K per month, right? So that's going to be a majority of the people. That's going to be 80% of the video. 80% of the people coming through are going to be at that threshold. So if you have a threshold of like a call out, let's say 25K per month business owners, you're going to target those people and below. It's never going to be 25K and above. So if you want a higher quality prospect, you always have to improve your ICP callout and get it much, much higher. So if your ICP callout is entrepreneurs that are $100,000 per month, a 25K per month entrepreneur and above, they're not going to be resonating with that ad. You have to be calling out that 100,000, but have to expect someone lower, people between $50,000 to $75,000 per month. In this case, the call out is 25,000, which means the people coming through your funnel is going to be below that, 25K and below. It's never going to be above. So that's understanding ICP callouts and how they work, especially if you use like a revenue threshold. So those callouts work, it helps, but that works in 2024, majority of the time. So what works today? These are called indirect ICP callouts. Indirect ICP callouts. So what are indirect ICP callouts? So for an indirect ICP callout, let me give you an example. So let's say I want to target coaches and consultants that are generating $50,000 per month. However, I have to understand how sophisticated my market is. My market is hyper saturated. It's very, very competitive. You're competing against guys who are spending a lot of money on ads in that specific niche. So you have to play around with your ad copy, A/B test a lot of different hooks just to make sure you're more efficient than them. So the first thing you do, you analyze what you've been seeing on your ads. If you're seeing a lot of ads that are saying, if you're a coach or consultant above $25,000 per month, right? And there's a person specific that's currently running that ad. How can you differentiate from that person who's spending 50 times more than you? So this is what you do. It's called an indirect ICP callouts. It pre-qualifies someone without mentioning a revenue threshold. Let's say your ICP callouts people at $50,000 per month. Without mentioning coaches and consultants, are you above $50,000 per month, right? Because if you hear that, it's going to sound scammy. It's going to sound like everybody else in the market. So what is one thing that we've even tried with our own money that has worked, which are indirect callouts? So how does this work? You have to understand a second and third layer of your ICP, right? So my ICP callouts is if they're spending money on ads. You have to imagine this. So if my ICP callouts, coaches and consultants who are generating $50,000 per month, and in my ads, I'm calling them out if they're spending money on ads. If they're spending money on ads, that means, that's money spent, but that means they're generating money to spend that money, which means they're already making money in their business. So if they're spending $5,000 a month on ads, they're typically making more than $5,000 if they're spending that much money. So that's my call out. But not only that. So that's number one. I'm not going to visualize that because I don't know how to write it down. Number two, it's going to be a second layer problem that they're experiencing. So let's say the main ICPM calling out to coaches, right? And consultants. But instead of saying if they're generating X amount of money, what I can do is if they are struggling with a specific problem, right? The problem that I'm helping them solve is lead quality. Lead quality. That's a second layer deeper. Why am I calling out this specific person? Lead quality. It's because if they're a coach and consultant, if they're not running ads, they're not experiencing this problem. Lead quality is the number one problem that most coaches face, and that stops them from actually scaling up their ads. Most people, like 99% of the people that hop on my calls, and the reason why they work with me is they've worked with the big agencies in the past, and it's just really bad quality, right? I'm not gonna do any callouts. I want to respect their name. Okay, so lead quality, right? So now I'm targeting people that have a second layer problem, which is lead quality. So coaches and consultants, are you struggling with lead quality? This will already pre-qualify that prospect. If they're struggling with lead quality, that means they're running some sort of ads or are getting traffic. If they're getting traffic, there's a high probability that they got at least a few deals from that traffic, which means they're my ICP, they're making money, they're spending money on ads. That is my ICP. So it's a second layer deeper without saying, are you a coach or consultant making $50,000 per month? So that's how you separate yourself from sophisticated markets, and that's what we use personally to help scale us drastically. $173,000 in 29 days. Proof, check out a few of my Instagram videos, check out my YouTube videos. I share everything live and no BS screenshots. So if you want more transparency, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to provide that. Okay, so that is direct ICP callouts. So let me know if that makes sense. Number 3 is going to be CRO. So this is fairly underrated. So for CRO, most people in this space, they usually use ClickFunnels. ClickFunnels is great. But for CRO, conversion rate optimization, that's basically the process of making your landing page much more efficient so you can get more leads, more book calls, or higher quality leads, higher quality calls, which will make you more money. For a landing page, people typically have websites. They'll have some text, they'll have a VSL or some sort, and then a CTA button. Most of the time, it looks scammy, right? There's no dynamic animations that feel professional, or it just looks like a white website with nothing else on it, and it feels like that prospect is about to get scammed. A majority of websites are like that. However, if you are running a new business, like you just created a new offer, you're making less than $150,000, $20,000 per month, maybe you don't have a lot of crazy case studies, right? So how we scaled up pretty quickly from an offer at 0 to $173,000 in 29 days was just having a slightly different / professional website that people can automatically trust more than a standard ClickFunnels website where it looks like it was created in 30 seconds. Just put a bit more effort on your landing page because people are judgmental. They'll judge you the split second that they see anything about you, from the way you dress, the way you present yourself, the way you speak, what you showcase on social media, and even your landing page. Having a better landing page that looked a bit more trustworthy helped improve our conversion rate optimization. Okay, now let's talk about the fourth part. And also the reason why I'm not talking too much about CRO was that was the last video yesterday. Okay, now let's talk about creatives. So creatives is probably the number one thing that will help improve lead quality, besides other things, but this will have the easiest and fastest lift. So for creatives, as we mentioned, we talked about ICP callouts, which are important. Now you want to talk. Now you want to have what people can judge, which is what you dress, what you dress like, what's your background, and even for specific video ads, not for this YouTube video, but for specific video ads when you're pushing traffic, even hyper, more animated professional type of editing style. I'm gonna have an example of one of my clients' edits that we did here, right? So that type of editing style will help improve lead quality instead of just a simple, what's it called? Like a simple captions from CapCut or Captions app, where you just automatically put the captions on the screen with no animations, nothing professional, just like a talking head video, right? A talking head video with not a lot of efforts will underperform compared to a creative where you actually took the time, where it looks a bit more proper, a better lighting, better scripts, better clothing, better background, better animations, and how it just looks overall. Because people are very, very judgmental, especially in sophisticated markets. In non-sophisticated markets, you can get away with just captions. We've seen that a lot of times where non-sophisticated markets, they can have a really bad background where it's just like a white background and it's just like automatic captions, and that will still perform very well, right? But you have to understand what type of market are you in. Are you in non-sophisticated markets or sophisticated markets? Also, be aware of what you wear in your video. For me, I wear the same clothes fairly every day. It's just black on black on black. I have like 10 pairs of the same shirts, 5 pairs of the same pants. I just wear the same thing. However, you have to understand your demographic. If I was wearing a Gucci tracksuits or Louis Vuitton, then I would be attracting the wrong demo. Or if I was like flexing a Patek or a Rolex, right? If I was just like flexing that would be attracting the wrong person. I'd be attracting an ICP that was impressed by money, impressed by material things. Those types of people that think that, you know, all these material things are really, really good, especially if it's like Gucci or LV, that means that they don't have money if they're impressed by that. We have to understand sophisticated markets. Sophisticated markets, they typically have money. So they're not impressed by Gucci or LV. They already have gone through that stage. Those people are more impressed by subtlety, but more premium experience. So you have to understand your market and your ICP call out there. Okay, fifth point I do want to talk about is going to be guarantees in 2025. So does that work, right? I would say it depends. Majority of industries, 90% of them, hell no. I wouldn't even recommend it. However, it will work for non-saturated markets, right? If you are not in coaches and consultants, if you are not in like the e-commerce space, if you are in like a local service-based business, it still crushes to this day. But be careful, right? Because most guarantees are a bit scammy, but that's gonna attract a lower quality person when it comes to guarantees. You're not gonna attract the right person, and it's gonna really destroy your business. I was working with a really, really big guy in this space. He's close to $1 million per month in his business, and you guys have seen his ads. I knew that what happened in the back end of his business, and I knew his margins. He was running an offer with huge guarantees. And if you notice his ads now, there's no more guarantees. Reason why? His offer was quite expensive. It's $15,000. He was running a guarantee. And even if he was getting 3 to 5 refunds, per month, that's a lot of money. $75,000 to $125,000 per month. He was getting volume. He was pushing out a lot of spend. But he had a crazy guarantee. He was attracting the wrong person, right? The wrong person that couldn't close the deals and stuff like that. So they would, say yes to his refund and actually request a refund. So that person, that big guy in this space, even though he was making a lot of money, let's say he was making $1 million per month, 20% will go to the sales team. A huge chunk of it is going to go to paid ads. A huge chunk of it is going to go to teams like CSM, COOs, systems team, creative team. And then a bulk of it is going to be going through refunds. So what was his net? His net was less than 10%. Making $1 million a month, but his net was 10%. Because he was attracting lower quality people and he was using crazy, crazy guarantees. That's why you see a lot of the big people in this space. I'm not going to name their names because I do want to give them some respect. Those guys are not running guarantees anymore. You've seen the shifts in the last 2 to 3 months where a lot of people are not using crazy guarantees because of that. They understood late. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this helps. So these are just the top 5 things to keep in mind to help improve your lead quality. Anyways, much love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers. Bye.